Welcome back to another Giant Slayer TFT video. Today we're counting down the top 10 champions for ranked. Our analysts are here to give the rundown on each of these champions and what makes them so good in patch 10.5. Keep in mind that this list won't be in order from strongest to weakest, as all of these champions are very viable. With that said, let's get right into the video. But before we begin, please don't forget to click the links in our description. Give your support to everyone who helped make this video happen. We host many TFT tournaments with plenty of exciting content to come, so be sure to also follow our Giant Slayer TFT social media pages. All right, let's get back into the video and start with the number 10 pick, Kindred. Kindred is once again returning to the top champions for ranked list. Essentially, they are just one of the best mid-game carries and are played in one of the best top meta builds, Six Shadow. Because of those reasons, it's always a great choice to look to play them if you're able to in the early and mid-game. Give them a Rage Blade and a Hand of Justice with either a defensive third item or rapid fire cannon, and they'll often hard carry you to at least stage 5. Pair them with Shadows, Inferno, and Ranger to make them even more effective. Make sure to scout and check to see how many players are contesting Kindred, as they are played in a lot of mid-game compositions, and it's important to 2-star them for your mid-game. One thing to keep in mind is that Crystal is a hard counter to Kindred's burst damage, so always be wary of where you position them and keep an eye for enemy Tarics. A great tip to position Kindred is on the far left or right side in the third row, so that it's possible for them to burst down fringe champions and potentially get onto a squishier target after. Another returning champion to the list comes in at number 9, Azir. They are still one of the best 3-cost carries in set 2. Azir is still one of the best champions for winning in stage 3 and 4 when 2-star. Look to give him Rage Blade and pair him with Karma for insane damage efficiency. It can be beneficial to give Azir a Shojin to make up for getting a bad spawn of his summon, as hitting backline champions is super important for him. He's best played in Summoner Assassin, but don't worry too much about the tags. Yorick 2 and a strong frontline will help Azir out most to give him time to ramp up his Rage Blade and get multiple summons on the board. Be careful against Berserkers, as Azir will often run forward and get himself stunned by Glacial. In those cases, you can build RFC, Quicksilver, or Guardian Angel to position him away from the enemy Olaf. Six Shadow is also hard for Azir compositions to deal with, so try to get late game Crystal when possible to help slow down the burst damage of Shadows. Continuing down our list, we have the number 8 pick, Braum. Braum is for certain one of the best frontline wardens in the game. Despite being a 2-cost, he scales really well into late game because of the damage reduction of his ability and the fact that it stops projectiles. Guardian Angel, Bramble Vest, and Warmogs will make him even harder to kill. He's currently one of the most contested frontline options, so getting him early and 2-starring him can often net you a big win streak when done early enough in the game. On top of his frontline capabilities, he also gives Glacial, which is one of the stronger early and mid-game traits in the current meta. If you're able to secure 4 Glacial, this will often be enough to win streak you through stage 3 and 4. Pair him with Ezreal, though Orin and Volibear are a great duo to go with him, as that will net you Electric, Glacial, and Warden. Speaking of Glacial, the next champion on our list is Ezreal in the number 7 spot. Ezreal is back again and is looking to solidify himself as a strong mid-game carry alongside Azir and Kindred. He was even buffed going into 10.5 with a 25 spell damage buff to his 1-star ability. That buff and Glacial being one of the best traits in the early and mid-game make him a highly sought-after champion in the current meta. A lot of items can work for him, especially since he's an item carry for other champions. Look to grab items such as Rage Blade, Static Shiv, Hand of Justice, or if you're looking to play a more spell-heavy champion later, it's not bad to give him a Seraph's, Death Cap, or Jeweled Gauntlet. Ezreal will work best in the mid-game to help transition your build into the late game, so look to play him with 4 Glacial and another Ranger. He goes well with Karma, or if you prefer, you can play 4 Glacial, 3 Berserker. Transition from that starting point into either 6 Berserker or Glacial Warden Ranger build. However you wish to transition, you'll often be selling Ezreal later in the game to transfer items, as he falls off late game compared to other carries. We're keeping it with the Glacials theme, as our number 6 champion is Olaf. Olaf and Berserkers have been a staple in the meta in 10.5, and honestly, not much else needs to be said about him. His AoE, damage, and survivability, with being immune to CC and having lifesteal, make him a huge threat against a lot of builds. Buff him with even more items like RFC, Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, Guardian Angel, or even turning him into an assassin. A strong item combination is 2 RFCs with a damage item, as he basically turns into a ranged carry with 900 attack range. The downside to Olaf is he is a bit pigeonholed into one build, and that's 6 Berserkers. Be sure to scout and make sure no one else is contesting him, as multiple players going for Olaf and Berserkers can make 2-starring him rather difficult. While he was buffed at level 1, he's still way more powerful and useful as a 2-star, and without that it's much harder to get a top 4. That said, if you do 2-star him, it's likely that you'll end up getting a top 4 with the carrying he will do in 6 Berserkers. Another returning champion coming in at number 5 is Taric. Good old Taric is back again because he's just so damn strong in the late game against most of the meta builds right now. Between Crystal and his ultimate, he stalls out late game fights so long that the rest of your composition will easily clean it up. Even without items, he's still great, but giving him a Guardian Angel and a Bramble Vest will up his tanking factor by a ton and guarantee that he gets his ultimate off for his team. Ormogs is another option to grab for him, as he will heal quite a lot during his ultimate and with damage reduction that Crystal provides. Honestly, Taric can be played in almost any composition late game, but he will do best with anything using a second Crystal champion such as Rangers. He functions well as the 8th unit in Predators and is one of the best legendary champions to put in at level 9. The next champion used to be an honorable mention, but now they are the number 4 pick, Zed. Zed is coming into 10.5 off of a build that became popular at the end of 10.4 that utilized him with Electric as a high roll centric late game composition. He is strong, especially if you get 4 Electric, since it was buffed by 50 damage in 10.5, but keep in mind it's going to be hard to 2-star him. Zed will still be effective at level 1 with the right items and composition, but he won't be nearly as strong of a carry unless he's 2-starred. Items such as Redemption, Bramble Vest, Guardian Angel, and Dragon's Claw can all be great ways to buff him, as defensive items work extremely well on his clones. Play him in either a Warden focused composition or as a 3rd summoner in the Summoner Assassin build. While he isn't as dominant as he was long ago near the early days of set 2, Zed is really showing his prowess at the end of the set. The Rock is back again this week to reclaim his spot on the top champions list, grabbing the number 3, it's Malphite. What more can be said about Malphite, as he has become such a staple champion all of set 2. He is a great frontliner with one of the best ultimates in the game because of his CC. Mountain is a bit of a letdown later in the game as far as splash traits go, but it's quite useful in the early and mid game. He's just such a great champion, everyone's been singing his praise for quite a while. He can be played without any items at all, though Guardian Angel increases his chance of getting multiple ultimates off, which is always wanted. Other defensive items can be good on him, but Morellonomicon is likely the best damage item for him, since the AoE of his ability is quite large. And as always, he is the best champion to turn into a mage in the case that you find a spatula when playing Ocean Mage. Besides that composition, he can basically be slotted into any build just to provide more CC and a decent frontline. Another newcomer to the list, we have Orin as the number 2 champion. Basically, the reason behind adding Orin here is the extreme importance of frontline champions in any build at all stages of the game. Orin does fall off later in the game around stage 3 going into stage 4, but his traits can really improve his impact on the game. Electric and Warden can be enough to carry through the early game and even later, as it does go really well with Glacial. Play Orin and Volibear, Braum, Ezreal in either Warwick or Olaf, and you have an insanely potent early and mid game that will carry you well into stage 4. Orin doesn't need any items, though Bramble Vest is universally good on any Warden. In the rare case that you make a Thieves Gloves, he is one of the better frontline champions to give it to. Other than those items, anything defensive is fine, but overall he really doesn't need any items to do well, just his traits and getting him 2-starred. Our number 1 champion on the list is actually the 3rd best tank in the game behind Taric and Braum, it's Leona. Malphite is great because of his CC, Orin is fantastic because of his traits, but Leona is just really hard to kill. That reason is why she's such an important champion for our current meta, as frontline is absolutely necessary. Pair her with Braum in the front line, and that duo is going to be strong well into stage 4, where you'll likely replace Leona, though you can keep her if the build is using Lunar. Again, like most tanks, she will be best with defensive items, though Bramble Vest is by far the best. There isn't any one particular composition you will want to play her in, so just get her 2-starred and have her in the front line with another Warden, and don't worry too much about trying to fit her into your final build. That's going to be it for our top 10 champions for ranked, folks. But before we go, of course, we have to talk about our honorable mentions. These are champions that are great in the right composition, but fall short otherwise. Let's start with our first honorable mention, Singed. Singed was also on our honorable mentions last time, and what was true then remains the same now. He's a strong champion when 2-starred and given items like Morellonomicon, but with poison not being quite as effective after being nerfed, it's less likely that you'll see Singed being highly sought after. That said, there are still plenty of instances where you see poison played, such as late game Berserkers, Rangers, or Predators builds, but it's just not quite enough to bump Singed into the top 10. Next in our honorable mentions, we've got Lux. Lux can have some of the most impact on the late game, but there's just such a small chance of finding her. On top of the small chance of finding the specific element, it makes her just less valuable overall. It's also much harder to pivot into a Lux carry, as she's often hard countered by certain builds and traits. In particular, she struggles quite hard against Crystal, but she is worthy of being an honorable mention because of just how great she can be in the right circumstance. For example, Cloud Lux is still insanely powerful when splashed into any build at level 8 or 9. Giving a team-wide dodge buff for one champion is just really valuable. That is it for our video today on the top 10 ranked champions for the 10.5 meta. This list is constantly evolving with each patch and meta, so always keep an eye out on what feels strong to play or play against and adapt as necessary. Are there any champions you think shouldn't be on this list or ones that you think should be? Be sure to let us know in the comment section below. Remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you all on our next GiantSlayerTV video.